I just can't get over the Pokedex entries for Mega Pokemon in the 7th generation. It's so sad and painful to read what happens when a Pokemon Mega Evolves, and it's also had like a lot of other portrayals that are starting to add up, and it makes me wonder if Game Freak actually regrets doing Mega Evolution. That when you think about it, the idea for creating a game goes back years before the game is made, so this is years before X and Y came out when the idea of Mega Evolution started, and Game Freak didn't know how it was going to be received. It seems like it was received mostly positively as a cool thing, but eventually the competitive side of Pokemon just corrupted it into use these Mega Evolutions or you suck. By the way, these Mega Evolutions are too powerful anyways, and then we see that kind of be portrayed in these 7th generation Pokedex entries. So I pulled up a little list right here, and it gets worse than this. So these are some of the more crazier ones. Gengar's relationships are warped, has no interest in opponents unless it sees them as prey. And I think like some of the most sad ones are like the Glalie. The excess energy from Mega Evolution spilled over from its mouth, breaking its jaw. It spews endless blizzards. Also, it cannot eat its prey because its jaw is broken. Like, that's the amount of energy. Like, you see pain and suffering. Mega Evolution also affects its brains, leaving no other function except its destructive instinct to burn everything to cinders for the Mega Gyarados. And then, like, you know, these Pokemon, they have no control. Same with Alakazam. As a result of Mega Evolution, its power has been entirely converted into psychic energy, and it has lost all strength in its muscles. That's why it looks like just a frail, spindly thing. I mean, Mega Alakazam from behind looks creepy because it just has, like, you barely just see its spine, and that's it. There's like there's no mass to it. It's just there. The Salamence, anything standing in its path gets sliced in two, while this Pokemon continues to fly without interruption, and also can turn on its trainer and will kill its trainer in a destructive rage. And then there's just like pain, constant danger of overflow, can't sustain battles on Mega Scizor. So yeah, Game Freak is trying to show that it's not just like a, hey, cool, friendship and awesomeness, let me get my Pokemon and make it stronger. No, you're killing your Pokemon and you're making it suffer in absurd amounts of pain while it's overflowing with energy. So that's like the idea of Mega Evolution. And then I remember seeing it from the anime, and Korrina's Mega Lucario is not pleasant to watch. They make it like a brutal and painful experience to watch, because yeah, that seems like everything is going just fine when her Mega Lucario loses control of its Mega Evolution. That isn't shown in the games. We don't know that this is the direction that Mega Evolution is going into. So yeah, Lucario just like goes nuts until it eventually just passes out from overexertion, loses its Mega Evolution, and then just GG like that. So that's pleasant, guys. And I'm wondering like if this is what Game Freak was intending all along, or if it's just kind of showing like, oh, by the way, there are drawbacks to unleashing this amount of power, and if that's why we're not seeing too much other Mega Evolution stuff in the 7th generation, that they didn't want to kind of hold on to Mega Evolution, even though the idea is really cool. That when you think about Mega Evolution, it's like, hey, this Pokemon that I've loved from the early generations of Pokemon that isn't really good anymore because of just like the overall power creep of the game. So that's what you think. You look at Beedrill, you look at Pidgeot, you look at some of these older Pokemon, and then you compare it to like the 5th and 6th generations, and now the 7th generation with some really absurd Pokemon that are just like, well, you could run this Pokemon, but an Ultra Beast is going to do its job better, or Ferrothorn is going to be a better tank than anything from the first couple of generations, so you might as well run that as well. And because of that, I think Mega Evolution was a great idea to kind of revitalize these Pokemon. Then we see Pokemon like the Beedrill getting an extra buff on top of its introduction as a Mega Evolution, and now the Pokemon's pretty insane. So we see there's a lot of strength. We see that this is a way to use the Pokemon you've loved, and also in a cooler, more edgy design, but then Game Freak like goes just crazy with it. And also, I'm wondering if there was just kind of like the response from the community is what drove this in Game Freak, because one thing I've noticed, I've been covering a lot of the nerfs and buffs and changes in the 7th generation, and it seems like Game Freak is responding to the community, and mostly Smogon, because Smogon just dominates and dictates the competitive Pokemon scene, and because of that, a lot of people, they just don't think for themselves. They're sheep to the Smogon mentality, and they just say, oh, evasion's the worst thing ever, get rid of it, oh, this Mega Pokemon's too strong, and I think that was what you could see, and maybe Game Freak noticed this as well. I don't know how much they pay attention to Smogon, but it seems like quite a lot, because, oh, Evasion gets another nerf in the 7th generation, got nerfed in the 6th generation, and it's pretty much been nerfed every generation since Evasion Claws really started blowing up. Same with the Mega Evolutions. It seems like there's a lot of bans on the Mega Evolutions, so Megas are kind of being thrown to the side. You know, they still exist because you can't just retcon that out of Pokemon after doing an almost entire generation dedicated to Mega Evolutions. But because of that, we can also see Swagger got nerfed, Prankster got nerfed. A lot of these annoying features. Sleep has been nerfed almost every generation since Sleep Claws started blowing up as well, and yet Smogon doesn't change their ways. You know, they get what they want, and then they don't review it, and even if they do review it, the community cannot think for themselves at all at this point, so no matter what just gets put on the chopping block, it's going to get banned because it's perceived as a threat. Gamefreak tries to respawn in future parts of the game, by then it's too late. I'm wondering if that's also what's happening with Mega Evolution, that Game Freak, they saw what happened with everyone just kind of going, well, Mega Kangaskhan's too strong, well, Mega Mawil's too strong, all these Pokemon are too strong, we hate Mega Evolution because it unbalances the game too much, even though it's a really balanced mechanic at heart. You get one Mega Evolution, and then that's going to dictate the Pokemon, and then it doesn't get an extra item. You know, there's no surprise factor when that Pokemon Mega Evolves, and then it's also going to kind of be more focused. You know what moveset the Mega Pokemon is going to run more often than not, so it kind of gives that Pokemon a lot of strength, but there are those drawbacks, and you can only do it once. But then it kind of showed that Pokemon like Mega Houndoom got effectively no usage. A lot of the Mega Pokemon just kind of got dropped off, that there was a really wide chasm between the used Megas and the unused Megas, and then in the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire versions, we got more Megas introduced, and the same thing kind of happened. It's like, alright, everyone hates Mega Salamence, cut down all the other Megas, and now, yeah, we just kind of use it whenever we need just an extra Pokemon, even though I personally really love Mega Evolutions, and I think that that's why I also have this negative view on the competitive community for treating it so negatively. So it seems like the idea of the average Pokemon fan that upholds the spirit of Pokemon, that idea has kind of been corrupted by a lot of the competitive communities, and it seems like Game Freak is like, alright, you want too much power, you want to see what happens when you get too greedy about being the strongest trainer, well, we're going to make you have some feels towards that. And I think the thing is, we might never know. Maybe this is how Mega Evolution was always supposed to be, and it was a little bit more hidden by that as we went into, like, through the 6th generation. Now, one thing that makes this really strange is when you look at Pokemon Origins. That with Pokemon Origins, Red and Charizard, they Mega Evolved together for the first time. There was no pain, there was no sadness, it was just like this hype moment. This is what you felt Mega Evolution was supposed to be about. There were no real drawbacks to the energy overflow, and it didn't really seem like too much of an issue. That's why I'm kind of just scrolling through these images right here, and it seems like the Pokemon, they're confident in their power, but they don't seem angered by their power. They don't seem overwhelmingly affected by it. Like maybe Mega Glalie. Mega Glalie was always interesting. I don't know if that might be like an artifact that maybe Mega Evolution is supposed to be bad, but for the most part, the Pokemon look confident, happy, and ready to beat things up, especially when they did the trailer for Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, when they showed all of the new Mega Evolutions. They're having fun. Like Sableye and Lopunny, that interaction's hilarious, because Lopunny just kicks Sableye and then the gym falls on, and they're all giggling and having a good time. So even like a twisted Pokemon like Sableye, you know, it's supposed to be like this cave-dwelling, crazy ghost Pokemon, it doesn't seem like it's having too many negative side effects from the Mega Evolution, and we don't also see that in the Mega Evolution specials as well, that there is a little bit of craziness, but for the most part, it seems like it's in check and it's balanced, and then Pokemon Sun and Moon comes by, it's like, nah guys, this is like the worst thing you could ever do to your Pokemon, because it's just ridiculous. So I'm wondering if like all of that build-up was supposed to be a different idea, and then in the 7th generation, Game Freak decided to cut away a lot of the ideas behind Mega Evolution, or at least try to make it edgier and maybe fail, because like, okay, we still want to have fun and be cool, and there's some moments that are pretty dark in Pokemon, like in Pokemon Origins, when Squirtle is like just chewing the neck of Charmander, and you're just hearing screaming and crying for like 30 seconds. That's uncomfortable, but it also shows, like, you know, that's a bit of the brutality that you can expect in Pokemon. If you don't want, like, Mega Evolution that seems a lot better to suddenly have this dark undertone to it. I was also looking into the Pokemon Championship format, and I think a lot of people were caught off guard when it was like, no Mega Stones are allowed, and all other items are allowed, including Z Crystals. So, like, yeah, guys, you can use Z Crystals, because that's what this generation is about, and I don't see a reason that no Megas are allowed, because you go into non-VGC double battles. You can use Mega Stones, you can use Z Crystals, you can do whatever you want, and even then there's that trade-off. You get one Z Crystal and one Mega per battle. or not Z Crystal, but you get one Z move and one Mega per battle, and you have to use it correctly. And then, like, if you see a potential Mega Pokemon use Z Crystal, it can't Mega Evolve. If you see a Pokemon Mega Evolve, you know that that's not going to carry like a crazy Z move on the side, and it can be a bit more strategic to understand your Pokemon strategy off of that. I also do like the balance that Mega Pokemon bring, because if your opponent is playing like a super standard, really just strict by-the-book metagame, you can use a Mega Pokemon to disrupt that with a higher amount of power on a lesser-used Pokemon that might get bullied out, even though it has some potential anti-meta aspects to it. And then also if there's something really common like the Mega Kangaskhan that everyone's running, you can find ways to exploit that as well. And you can build strategies like, alright, take out their Mega Evolution, now I still have my Mega, I can respond to their Z Crystal, and then you can get the advantage by just being allowed this extra pool of Pokemon. I think that's another issue, that VGC, not a lot of Pokemon in the Alola deck, so Mega Evolutions would add to that. But adding Mega Evolutions also seems like a chore, and I think that that might be another reason for the disdain that Game Freak has. Maybe they did all these Mega Evolutions in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, went for the 7th generation game, and then realized, crap, how are we going to distribute all of these? So we have the Pokemon Global Link, they've been updating, and now they're giving away like 3 to 4 Mega Stones every month or so, and it's like, yeah, that's an insane amount of gift items to be giving. And they are using it promotionally for like their international challenges and their online tournaments, but at the same time, it still feels very overwhelming. And what about introducing more Mega Evolutions? Like Game Freak, they've created this beast of Mega Evolutions, and now people want to see their favorite Mega Pokemon get a Mega Evolution and see where that takes it to the next level. I feel like the Z Crystals kind of did a little bit of that, because like, oh, we have Snorlax getting a Z Crystal instead of a Mega Evolution. Is that going to make the fans happy enough? Well, Pulverizing Pancake isn't really that fantastic, but you look at it and like, yeah, you see all these people like, oh, what about these 2nd generation starters? They did the 1st and 3rd, so that means all the other generations, it'd be fair if they got Mega Evolution. So now it's just like Flygon, where's the Mega Flygon, where's the Mega Milotic? Came out in an interview that Mega Flygon was slated to be in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, but they couldn't get the design right, then they ended up just giving Flygon Dragon Dance. So it seems like there is a little bit of fan service behind it, but it has Game Freak just kind of like grown tired of this idea of Mega Evolution, that it blows up, and instead of like being universally loved, people are like, oh, it's too strong, it breaks the game too much, oh, by the way, you didn't give me this, so you suck, Game Freak. And are they turning on the fan base, or are they just trying to take this progression of Mega Evolution and the absurd power that happens with it? But then what does that mean for Z Crystals? Because then, shouldn't Z Crystals on the same line harm your Pokemon? That if they have to just use this absurd burst of power just for that one time, is it too much for the Pokemon to handle, even if it is experienced with using Z Crystals and has the bond and everything like that? So there are a lot of implications that are going on with the Mega Evolution, everything, releasing new Pokemon, releasing new Mega Stones. I don't even know how they're going to do it if there is an 8th generation of Pokemon. Like, that's one of the fears. Like, okay, 8th generation Pokemon, Z Crystals have to come back, Mega Evolution has to come back. Hopefully they don't try to complicate it with another new game mechanic, because I think if we learned anything for Pokemon Sun and Moon, we don't need gimmicks for a good game. We just need good game mechanics for a good game. Z Crystals didn't really add anything to the longevity of Pokemon Sun and Moon, but they didn't really spice up the competitive metagame too much. I mostly feel because, like, the Status Z moves, half of them are just, oh, it resets Pokemon stats, instead of kind of adding an extra dimension, because there's too much power inside of a Z Crystal, therefore they were balanced to be, okay. And you can use them, like, the Pokemon now has an opportunity to nuke one Pokemon harder than it's ever nuked a Pokemon before, and now has more counterplay potential for that said Pokemon using the Z Crystal, but then it doesn't have an item. So if you're using a Choice Band or a Life Orb, you're getting more damage than the Z Crystal over the duration of that. It kind of gives a pseudo-stab to, like, non-stab moves. So there's a lot of weird things that Z Crystals do, but I don't think it added enough for all the promotion. Mega Evolution definitely impacted the game more than Z Crystals, even though everyone's roughly using a Z Crystal, I feel. But it's at the same time, it's like, I could use a Z Crystal, and it'll do some damage, it might get me out of a situation. But the Mega, you can build the team around the Mega. Your Z Crystal, that's just one turn. And that's, you use it and it goes away. So I'm wondering what could be a possibility for the 8th generation. Trading all of my stones. Oh my goodness, I'm going to hate that. I'm going to hate trading all of my Mega Stones from Pokemon Sun and Moon into the next Pokemon game. Hopefully there's just like a bag transfer. I would love something like that. And yeah, that's going to be a nightmare. So maybe Game Freak has realized this and they're like, yeah, It's crazy Mega Evolution. Hopefully we see it in VGC 2018. So I think that's going to be it. Like, if we see Mega Evolution start to get phased back in, get a little bit of support, get a bit more attention from Game Freak, that might be a good sign that Mega Evolution isn't this bad thing that Game Freak regrets, or at least is like feeling a little spiteful over. Japanese culture is kind of weird with like how respect works and stuff. Maybe they don't feel enough respect towards that. That could be a really interesting thing to see how that unfolds. But yeah, if VGC 2018 doesn't allow Mega Evolution, who knows what's going to happen. And it's just kind of weird, this progression that we've seen from the 6th generation to the 7th generation, and then the community and all these other things I've been talking about. So if you guys enjoy the video, hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.